Sarah. Okay, colleagues, the committee meeting is now in public session and will be recorded and broadcast throughout Parliament buildings. Start with apologies. Gary Middleton and Jonathan Buckley were joined online by Sinead McLaughlin, Gemma Dolan and Padraig Delargy. In the room by Diana Armstrong, Kate Nicholl and David Honeyford. Are there any declarations of interest at this stage, members? If none, I'll move to Chairperson's business. Item 4.1, just to remind members of last week's external meeting at Impact Training at Lanark Way, which is followed by a tour of the facilities. Members content to note its summary, and that I send a letter to Impact Network on behalf of the committee thanking them for hosting us. David?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I thought it was really useful just to see that the work they're doing. Thank you for the go there. But I think
okay. Thank you. Item 4.2, members. Colleagues will be aware that John Darcy, Director of the Open University, will be retiring at the end of next month. Dr. Darcy joined the Open University in 2010 and has been an outstanding advocate for lifelong learning and widening access to education here in Northern Ireland. Are members content? On behalf of the committee, I write to Dr. Darcy thanking him for his work and dedication.
Absolutely.
Members content? Okay, thank you. We will do that. Okay, draft minutes. Members are at page 7. Members content I sign those as a true and accurate reflection. Not agreed. Okay. Item 6 is matters arising. Any member wish to raise anything at this stage? If not, we'll move to item 7, which is RHI closure of non-domestic scheme bill clause by clause scrutiny. I remind the committee stage of the RHI closure of non-domestic scheme bill is underway and will conclude on or before the 27th of February. The committee deliberated informally on the clauses of the RHI closure of the non-domestic scheme bill on the 11th of February 2026 and informally indicated that it was unlikely to bring forward any amendments to the bill. The committee will now be asked to set out its formal position on each of the clauses of the bill. This session will be reported by Hansard, and I refer members to the clerk's covering note at page 17, a table summarising the evidence received in respect of the RHI bill at page 23, and a copy of the RHI bill and explanatory and financial memorandums at page 37. Members content to proceed? Okay. So members may wish to follow the bill itself, which is at page 36 of their pack. They are now asked to set out their formal views on the clause of the bill for the record, and votes may be required. The committee will proceed through the clause by clause, and I will put the questions formally. So if we deal with clause 1 at page 40 to 42 of the meeting packs, these are the regulation making powers. The committee was previously informally content with the clauses as drafted. Could I propose that the committee is content with clause 1 as drafted? Is that agreed? Great, thank you. If we deal with clause 2 now at page 42, this provides for the Act to come into operation on the day after receiving royal assent and sets out the short title of the bill. The committee was previously informally content with the clause as drafted. Is the committee content with clause 2 as drafted? Is that agreed? Okay, thank you. The long title of the bill is a bill to enable the Department for the Economy to make regulations to close the non-domestic RHI scheme. Is the committee content with the long title as drafted? Agreed? Okay. Members, the committee stage of the RHI closure of non-domestic scheme has now concluded, subject to agreement of the committee report. Peter.
Just members, or the committee also just content to write to the department advising of this, but also just suggesting that in terms of the RHI compliance arrangements, that they publish those and relevant statistics in order to enhance public confidence.
Members content? I thank colleagues for all their work and dedication on this bill. Obviously and rightly, this bill has attracted particular attention from across the spectrum here in Northern Ireland, but I want to thank members who have approached this bill in ensuring both value for money for the taxpayer but also a fair outcome for current recipients of the scheme. So on behalf of the committee, can I thank each of you for doing that. We then move to item 8, members, which is the Skills Action Plan, and we'll hear evidence from departmental officials on the Skills Action Plan and refer members to the clerk's covering note. We have big turnout of, I'm not sure what the collective term for directors at the Department for the Economy is, but all 4 of them are here today. So colleagues, you're very welcome to the committee, and I'll hand over to you whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much, Chair, and members, for the opportunity to come along today to present to you on the Skills Action Plan. Maybe if it might be helpful, we've had a bit of a reorganisation, Chair, over the last month, just to explain what has happened and who's doing what and where, just to allow you to understand that. So as part of the PAC and the recommendations, we recognise the need to restructure and realign our functions within the department. So Since last month, I've taken on responsibility for all of the pathways that are of interest to employers. So the apprenticeships now falls under my remit, as well as Skills for Life and Work and the previous skills programme. Clem has now taken on responsibility for post-school transitions, which includes careers, special educational needs, and a number of other functions. And Louise has just recently taken up a role on FE reform. Graham's role has remained unchanged, so there is quite a bit of change within the department. So whenever we get into questions, we'll probably be intertwining between them. So if I just, in terms of the action plan itself, I'm sure the members will have an opportunity to read the document. As you'll see, it comes under 3 different headings within it. So collaborating with industry and education partners to drive innovation is our first area. Improving our skills system by building on the strengths of our institutions, interventions and programmes. And thirdly, creating an inclusive, forward-looking skills ecosystem that supports economic transformation. I suppose it's important to say, as you're probably all really aware, that given the most recent evidence from the Employer Skills Survey, it really underlines the importance of this work. So despite the fact there has been a reduction in skills vacancies since 2022, it still remains a really hot topic, particularly for industry. And employers face shortages in areas such as problem-solving skills, reinforcing the need for a responsive employer-led skills system here. Certainly the Minister is committed to strengthening our skills system by building on the proven success of our institutions and our programmes. And there's no doubt that skills is central to Northern Ireland's long-term economic and social well-being, supporting productivity, business growth, investment and access to better jobs. So in that context, I think it is important to recognise that the role of this committee and indeed the Public Accounts Committee has been really constructive in helping us to sharpen our focus around delivery, risk management and indeed value for money. Turning to the report itself, we've provided the committee with a bit of a summary of where we've got to against each of those. If I may just highlight a couple of things that I think are an indication of our success. You'll see the £20 million that we've invested in the Skills Fund, launched by the Minister back in July 2024, which has supported 15,000 individuals, 1,000 employers through targeted schemes such as Skill Up. I know the committee is very complimentary in terms of that particular programme, but also things like the SME Productivity Booster and our Apprenticeship Challenge Fund. But also our apprenticeship programme. I know committee members have been very positive in terms of the apprenticeship programme and the benefits that it brings. And we've had some success with that already. In terms of our apprenticeship action plan has launched in August 2025. We've also launched our APPS 25 programme, as well as our Apprenticeship Inclusion Challenge Fund. So some success there. And we're seeing a real rise in terms of the participation in our apprenticeship programme. We now have 14,000 individuals enrolled in our apprenticeship programme. We have levels 2 and levels 3 and £48 million invested in that. But also in terms of our universities, one of the initiatives included within our action plan was the outcome agreements. And we've had success in getting the 24-25 outcome agreements agreed back in September. And our 25-26 outcome agreements are progressing well, with Queen's and OU have already signed theirs. So I think that shows real progress, but I think it's important to say that there's much more to do in going forward. So looking ahead over 2026, we will continue to improve the skills pathways as a priority, looking at childcare, supporting young people with special educational needs, and strengthening the sector-based skills planning to better align provision with employer demand. And just in relation to supporting young people with special educational needs, the Department has led the development of a cross-departmental transformational fund bid, working with departments such as education, health, communities and infrastructure to improve pathways and transitions from school into adulthood. We hope to hear about the transformational bid very soon, and that will help us to deliver vital reforms to support every young person to achieve their full potential. We're also making good progress in relation to the financial needs assessment of our higher education institutions, and I know that's an issue that's coming. You'll be briefed separately in the coming weeks on that particular issue. And I've just mentioned a small team that has been established in the department on FE reform. That's just been established, as I've said, and that is a really important piece of work for the FE sector. So certainly from my perspective, skills provision now spans a comprehensive range of opportunities, from upskilling and reskilling courses through to apprenticeships, higher level apprenticeships and degree level study. Many of the programmes offer flexible online delivery, which I think has been a huge success to support those balancing work and learning. So together, these measures ensure that people and employers across the region can access the skills that they need to drive productivity. However, I don't want to give the committee the impression that this is all plain sailing. There are many challenges ahead, and not least the financial climate that we're currently in. We're currently going through the budget process and looking at the impact that will have on our organisation and for our arm's length bodies. And also, as PAC recognise, it is a very fragmented landscape. Multiple organisations and providers are involved in skills, which make it really difficult and challenging to try and navigate through that. So through the Skills Action Plan, we hope to streamline the system, improve coordination and bring coherence to how skills policy is delivered here. So, Chair, that sort of concludes my introductory comments. As I say, we're here, we're open to questions, and happy to take those.
Graham, no, thank you very much for that, and can I thank you all for your important work in this regard. And listen, you set out the really important work that is ongoing, but with that in mind, why then is economic inactivity continuing to increase?
Yes, so economic inactivity is increasing. It has been a really challenging issue for us over the last number of decades. It isn't a new issue. And I suppose a lot of the research that we have done has focused on the different cohorts, so those with disabilities is a large proportion of that, looking to support those with disabilities to return to work, to give them the confidence that they need. So for an example, around Step Up is one of the programmes that we did introduce, and that has been a really successful programme in supporting people to get the skills that they need. One of the themes that we have identified, though, is actually confidence. So confidence for a lot of people is a really important factor there in terms of them getting into work. So I don't think, Chair, it is a single issue that actually is creating an increase in economic inactivity. It's about providing people with the opportunities that they need, whether it's getting the skills or whether it's getting into employment, is a really important part of trying to address that. So providing people with that opportunity. One of the programmes that has been really successful is the Job Start programme, where we've worked very closely with the Department for Communities to help people into employment and to give employers confidence as well. So it's not just about the individual, it's about actually employers changing their behaviours and actually looking at different cohorts of individuals that they wouldn't have ordinarily looked at. And that's really important, because if you look at, I mean, we're probably about 5,500 people short every year in terms of the number of people that our economy needs to continue to grow. So it's really important that we look at all opportunities to help people into that employment. But it is not just about the individuals, it's actually about employers as well. And I'm seeing a real sea change in terms of the behaviours of employers, how they recruit and how they actually engage with individuals to bring them into employment. So there's lots of really good case studies where companies have had great success in getting people into employment. I would also say that if you look at how the workplace has changed, even over the last 5 years, where technology has automated a lot of things. COVID changed the workplace very significantly. For those people who have low or no qualifications, it's becoming more difficult for them to engage in the labour market as well. So that is part of the issue, as well as actually the changes in our economy. And so we're very live to that, and we're very focused around providing opportunities for people can upskill and reskill so that they can continue to participate in the labour market. So it is a very complex issue. There are lots of multiple factors that are influencing the increase in terms of those that are economically inactive.
So the spending by the Department on Skills has increased or decreased?
Over which period, sorry, Chair? Over
period since the restoration of the assessment.
I think it has broadly stayed the same in terms of our it's flat cash, if you like, is kind of my view in terms of our overall expenditure. We have been successful in drawing down alternative funds from the Northern Ireland office, from Peace Plus. So funding has increased in particular areas where we have been successful in doing that.
The funding is increasing. Why then are the numbers not matching that in terms of economic inactivity?
I think it's because of those sort of external factors, Chair, in terms of the fact that opportunities are maybe reducing, and we've seen changes in many sectors across Northern Ireland. So if you take the software sector, for example, where AI has really changed the way that they do business, and that has impacted in terms of those opportunities, as well as, I suppose, the lower level of jobs, that has reduced as well in terms of the impact of technology too.
You have seen the supply of people using pathways like apprenticeships improving or increasing rather steadily over the last number of years, in particular those who are already in the labour market who wouldn't have had that support before. I think that what we're seeing now is that we have to really target those who've got more challenging transitions. If you look again at the apprenticeship programme, only 3.6% have declared disability. That's why the focus of the action plans is really looking at how we can try and enhance the pathway for those learners. So we want to deliver those challenge fund projects, get the lessons and apply that to the mainstream provision. I think that's the sort of the next step in tackling economic activity.
In terms of then, Graham, you talked about challenges, the financial picture, etc. So if you just talk to me about the draft budget then.
So in terms of where we're at currently, we're going through the various options with the Minister. There's no doubt that is going to be challenging in terms of increase in pay. So pay inflation is really impacting on our budget and causing pressure on that. But also in terms of increasing demand, as Clem has said, we're seeing a real spike in demand for our programmes. I think part of that as well is that alternative programmes, whether it was funded by ESF or UK Share Prosperity Fund, all of those alternative programmes are reducing. So we're seeing a real increase in demand for the programmes that we deliver in the
What proposals have you put to the Minister in terms of cuts then?
So we're currently going through that process at the minute, Chair. We're discussing, it's a live issue that we're just discussing with her. So we're looking at all of the options on the impact at the minute. So
Give a couple of examples then.
Examples of
That's what you're proposing.
So I don't have them with me, Chair, today. Sorry. So
No, that's fine. Just in terms of the FE reform, then, if you're delighted to hear that that's new standalone piece of work, maybe just tell me a bit about that if you don't mind.
Certainly. So one of the challenges that we face sectorally over the last number of years is making sure that we have the right platform to initiate reform work. So a team has been stood up since January to do that. Really what we're doing at the minute is having discussions, both starting those discussions with the 6 colleges, but also providing advice to the Minister about the scope and scale of that work. What we're seeking to do is to make sure that the continued pattern that we've seen over the last year on numbers increasing in FE colleges continues to be supported. And we also recognise that there's work to do in terms of the interface of FE colleges with, for example, the schools environment, and particularly some of the work that the Education Minister is proposing about Transform Ed. We are at the minute just talking through what those options look like in terms of the various work streams, and we'll be advising the Minister and taking her direction with regard to the actual detail of what the work's going to look like.
Do you think we have too many FE providers in Northern Ireland, and would we be better served if we just had a single?
No, I don't believe that's
Okay.
the case. I'm
You
very
don't think
clear.
there's competition between the?
So I think we need to be really clear when we look, for example, in Ireland, when we look across other jurisdictions in the UK, we know that our coverage of colleges, having those 6 colleges spread across a number of campuses, is really important. Each of those colleges will take a direction from the department about the Minister's priorities, but also really importantly, they will have their own partnerships in their own localities with their own businesses. It's really important that that footprint in their localities is maintained. So this is not a programme about changing the number of colleges. There is no plan to change from 6 colleges. There is no plan to institute a single college for this place.
Okay. And Graham, you've got the easy job of of higher education. So have you replaced Mark Lee, is that right?
No, Chair, I am the temporary Director of Higher
okay.
Education,
Okay.
at the moment the Acting Director.
Okay,
Although I was Mark's deputy for
okay, well,
3 years.
Congratulations. Where are we with the financial needs assessment? That's with the Minister now?
So in terms of financial needs assessment, Chair, we received the final report last week
Yep.
from Higher Futures. That has been provided to earlier this week to the Minister. I'm due to meet with the Minister later this week, I think tomorrow,
Yeah.
and then the Minister will make a decision around the next steps in terms of publication and sharing of the report. I would stress that the Minister said throughout we want to do this in conjunction and work with institutions. So once we have briefed the Minister on the final report, we will then engage with the institutions around the publication. I mean, I'm due to be here on the 4th of March to brief the committee on the report. So that's the date we're working towards. That is might be challenging, but we'll see. We'll aim to do our best, because obviously whatever approach is adopted, approved by the Minister, we'll want to engage with the universities on that, and the university colleges.
And is it still the position of the department that they'll not move ahead with that unless it has to sign up an agreement of the institutions?
Well,
that changed.
So that's the wider review, Chair. So in terms of financial needs assessment, and that's what I'll be meeting with the Minister later in the week around, in terms of what the Minister wishes to do in terms of publication or the approach to that, and engagement with the universities. Then there is the wider review, and the department and the Minister has been clear from the outset that we would not move ahead on a wider review without the agreement of all the institutions.
You want to say something else there? No? Kate?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Thanks for coming in and for your presentation. I keep thinking skills, we know how important it is. I'm not sure the public really understand the language of it. And for me, skills are opportunities. And I think when we're talking about it, we need to talk more about the kind of actual impact it has on people's lives. And it's really great that you're reorganizing. I made this point before, but someone used the analogy of the London Tube map for the skills landscape, and how it feels like the London Tube map without any lines joining it up, and it can be a little bit hard to navigate. I'm really interested in childcare, and you mentioned that as a piece of work that is going to be done. Could you use that as using that as an example? If you're a business or you're someone who wants to get into childcare, how would you navigate the current skills landscape?
If you're an employer that wants to get into childcare,
we know that childcare, I think, is one of the biggest economic issues in our society. Like, it is, it's in crisis, and what I hear from providers is recruitment and retention is impossible, and what is happening is that the bills, and I'll declare an interest because I have 3 children in childcare, but the bills are increasing, and we need high quality childcare. We need staff who are paid well. Skills is an essential part of that. So if you're an employer and you're in crisis and you want to be providing more childcare, and you come to the Department for Economy to understand how to navigate the skills landscape, where do you go?
So we have there's a sectoral partnership that looks after childcare in terms of the various pathways, looking at all of the various issues. So we are working very closely with that sectoral partnership, and it's very much employer-led, and that's what we want to see, is actually employers designing the various pathways, looking to see how we can make it easier for employers to navigate. And we have seen success in that regard. For example, we have ran a number of assured skills academies, designed them, built them, with the employers taking the lead in terms of the content of those academies, what's involved in that, and they've already seen a flow of individuals into the sector. So we know that those short-term academies work, and the real benefit is actually delivered through the local FE colleges. So it's working through the local FE colleges, designed by employers, and it is helping them to get the people that they need. But we're also, and this is an interesting point, around actually developing careers in childcare. So historically it had been, people used it as a short-term measure. They got into childcare and then moved on to different things. But what we're very keen to do is to build a career in the childcare area, and we're working with the sector to build provision around management courses, for leadership courses, so people can see a progression right from entry level right through to to level 5 and above. So that is changing the dynamic of how individuals perceive the childcare sector, and that they can now see a very clear career in it. They can see that there's a pathway, there's an entry level through our Assured Skills Academies, and then right through to leadership positions. So I think that has been a success in this, and that we have worked very closely through those sectoral partnerships to design and implement a system that allows for people to come into the sector and progress right through to leadership, to management positions. So I think for us it has actually been a real pathfinder in terms of the sectoral based approach. Because if you look at the overall economy here, people talk about SMEs, they're actually micro businesses that we have here, so less than 10 employees. So that has been a real challenge for us, is actually how do we help these micro businesses in our economy to grow. So the sectoral based approach is something that we are very keen to focus on, and to make sure that employers can engage in that sectoral based approach. So because it's very difficult for us to engage with individual employers, it's very difficult for them because they simply don't have the time. But that sectoral based approach, I think, is something that is going to really work.
Okay, that's useful. And how much of that is then feeding into what the other colleagues within the department are doing in relation to the childcare strategy? So there's the development of a business support. Are you linked in with that?
So yes, so colleagues in the Economic Policy Group are leading with Invest and I and designing a scheme that looks at supporting those businesses in terms of that intervention. So we are linking in with it. We talk regularly. And what is useful there is actually providing the intelligence in terms of what's happening in the sector, what are the issues, what are employers telling us, what is happening, and we're feeding that back into our colleagues in the Economic Policy Group. So we are joined up in terms of our approach to the childcare sector. And I agree with you that in terms of economic growth, it is really important that we have a childcare sector here that is effective and it provides that opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. And I think they're really interesting examples of employers doing quite creative things, like across the world, in Vermont and places. So that's good to hear. And it leads on to my second question. You mentioned about the intelligence that you're learning. I'm really interested in the use of data and how we use public data. How much has this been informing the skills action plan? And what data sets are you using? How are you working with other departments to ensure that actually this is going to make a tangible difference?
So maybe just building on the sectoral based approach, what we have done is, and we are working with the digital sector here, we are doing a lot of work with the Green Skills Group, hospitality and tourism. So we are taking a sectoral based approach, but as you say, the starting point in all of the work that we are doing is on the research to understand the landscape, to understand the challenges that those companies face. So a lot of research is actually informing our approach. Because I said to the chair earlier, we are in difficult financial times, so it's important that any investment we're putting into skills is delivering against a very clear need. So it's about understanding the need of those individual sectors and then designing the interventions that are actually going to deliver positive outcomes. So there is a lot of research that goes into each of those individual components to actually help inform our
Are you sharing data with education and health and communities? For example, the chair used economic inactivity as an example. This is intersection.
That is such a huge integral part of all this work and will take on growing importance as we progress. So a couple of areas of my work within the careers portal, we're currently mapping out where all the data sources are, and that's going to be the biggest challenge probably for that piece of work, and that because it's so all-encompassing and cross-cutting, it's almost establishing a data strategy for the department de facto. If you look at the SEN work and the collaborations happening across departments, we've established a new cross-departmental group to try and pull the data together so that we can have a joint approach to planning and forecasting need. So I agree with you, it's a huge new area of work that we've got to make progress on.
Yeah.
Could I perhaps add 2 points? One is with regard to planning, so use of data. So FE colleges produce college development plans, effectively their business plans, on an annual basis, and those are well linked into the Minister's priorities. But we will use evidence, for example, from the Skills Barometer to see what those economic needs are in their localities, and that will be matched up with their feedback from the employers that they support in their localities. Turning then, I suppose, in a wider sense to part of the reform work, we're very clear that that transition from the statutory school sector into FE is really important. So one of the pieces of work ongoing under the auspices of 14 to 19 is looking at linking data of school leavers and FE, and indeed looking at that sense of whether there is duplication of provision and how we drive that out of the system and be really clear that this is a student-centred approach, that the student is getting the right choices in terms of academic subjects and also vocational subjects. A longer term piece of work that the department is involved in is in the longitudinal educational outcomes work, and that's going to be available, if I recall correctly, probably in the next year, and that does link education data with FE and HE data, and over time will also link employment data. So that will give us a very long term picture over time of the outcomes that students go to and destinations of students as they come through school and the education system, and in terms of their earnings potential as well.
Okay, fascinating, thank you. And one last question, if I'm allowed. You mentioned AI, and I can't not ask a question about AI. There's no reference of it within the action plan. Would that be a bit of a flaw, something that needs to be addressed?
So we are working very closely with colleagues in, again, Economic Policy Group, and I know Carmel's coming up later on this morning, looking to see the approach to AI and how we embed that. So we're taking a lead from Economic Policy Group in terms of taking that forward. But what we have seen over the last number of years is AI being introduced to all of our provision. It has changed unrecognisably so, and I talked about Assured Skills Academies. We run academies that are specifically designed for employers' needs, so that will include AI within that. Some of our other programs, such as the Productivity Booster that I mentioned, again, it's using technology, helping employers to use that type of technology to enhance their productivity, obviously, but also in terms of the various sectors. What is interesting is the adoption of AI is very different in each of the different sectors in our economy. And I know the AICC have been very successful in supporting companies on that journey. So there is quite a bit of product, if you like, there and available to companies should they want to implement AI, whether it's using AICC, whether it's using the provision within our FE colleges or our universities. They are very much to the fore in terms of technological changes and how to adopt that within individual businesses. So any businesses out there,
it's also the workforce. Like the majority of the workforce are already in work now, and upskilling is going to be such a big part of kind of opportunities down the line. So how people how people avail of that is going to be so important.
Yeah, and with our Skill Up program, again, there are AI opportunities within the Skill Up program. Again, I would say that's a great opportunity for individuals. It's free. It's online, it's very accessible, so for individuals to take the opportunity as well to upskill in relation to AI, I agree with you. I mean, we use now in the public sector, it is a fantastic tool, and it really helps us in terms of delivering our services, but equally for the private sector, I see it's a huge opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Patrick?
Chair, Chair, I should have declared at the outset I'm a member of the PAC. So apologies, I didn't declare that. I meant to. 3 points from me. I suppose the first one's around cross-border and All-Ireland apprenticeships. Second one around insurance for apprenticeships, and then the third on regional metrics. So just to go into a bit more detail on those areas, like my own, obviously a number of students come from Donegal to Derry to study, and vice versa. The difficulty with that is that they then might want to avail of an apprenticeship within the respective county, and there's obviously quite a number of barriers to this. So I would like to get a better understanding of what work the department are doing to reduce those barriers, to work directly with employers, and actually to try and get a handle on this, because I know the FE colleges do a huge amount of work in this space. But I think that there needs to be a policy change in terms of actually working out the detail around this and encouraging All-Ireland apprenticeships.
Yeah, so I'll pick this one up, given it's my previous role. We had done some collaboration with colleagues in the south on a shared island bid, which unfortunately wasn't successful. However, it remains a commitment within the Apprenticeship Action Plan. We've noted by 2027 developing joint pathways. And I think how we actually get there. So at the moment we have, I suppose, eligibility criteria which tries to ensure that nobody is caught between the gap of provision. But I accept your point that there's only limited shared development of what is the standard required across the island. So I think that the answer really is around the skills governance piece, and that we're working with sector partnerships and those employers is asking them questions such as, okay, so how do we develop this curriculum and content so that it meets wider needs of employers and tries to reduce those barriers so there's portability. We already do ask employers questions around how we ensure portability, but I think the task here is much more focused on that particular challenge.
Okay, so looking forward to seeing more of that, and I would be grateful just if we could update on timeline and how that's progressing. But I suppose the question really is around the apprenticeships. So in terms of insurance, so how are the insurance barriers being addressed by the department? Because there are huge insurance barriers for students who reside in the north, want to do placement in the south, and vice versa.
Yeah, I'd be really grateful if it's possible to share some information on that. Typically, it's not an issue that's raised in my previous role over the last 5 years frequently. But if it's an issue that's causing a barrier, then we'll certainly look into it.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's a barrier for students in my area, but right across any border region. So I'm more than happy to provide that data. On the insurance piece in general, this is something that's raised with us consistently, is around the fact that people are struggling to get insurance for their apprenticeship and therefore can't progress to do a placement. So this is something we're seeing right across insurance, from car insurance, home insurance, and now apprenticeship and placement insurance as well. Can you update me on what the department are doing around that to try and address that and remove those barriers?
Again, it's not, I mean, I do hear this issue a bit more around work placements when it comes to vocational education pathways rather than apprenticeships, because I suppose apprenticeships, it's a job first and foremost, so it's a similar barrier to anybody within the labour market. We have a set budget for apprenticeships and we've tried to maximise the number of places available. In terms of the incentives that we have for employers, typically we've tried to focus that on ensuring that the participant has the incentive to complete their qualifications whenever they are experienced towards the end of the apprenticeships. So in that type of question, I suppose it's an ongoing engagement with employers to see how do we want to adjust those incentives to address the real barriers that they're facing. But there isn't additional funding that's available at the moment that we could provide additional support with.
For me, this is a key piece of sort of all Ireland infrastructure in terms of what should be being discussed between the two departments. And I think the insurance piece is massive. It's something that we're getting all the time in the office. So I would be quite surprised. I mean, if it hasn't been raised already, this is something that's a huge issue in our area, in other areas around work placements, around apprenticeships, or around all of that elements of bringing students out of their course and into work placement. So, I mean, I would appreciate just if we could even get a written update following this on that and on what's been done with the work streams. The other issue for me, the last issue, is just around regional metrics. So I appreciate there's a lot of high level stuff being done in terms of skills, and I suppose it's great to see the vision that both Conor Murphy and Keith Archibald have put in place being realised, and that being distilled out through the department, colleges, universities, providers, and so on. But for me, what I would like to get a better understanding of the regional metrics, and that how does that impact areas where there's deprivation? How does that impact areas that are more rural? How does that move beyond a Belfast-centric approach, and how does that actually reach into all of our communities?
I'll maybe start on that one, Padraig. So one of the key developments over the last number of years has been the introduction of labour market partnerships, and that has been hugely beneficial in helping us to get a deeper understanding of those regional needs, as you've just set out, because every part of the north here, they're all different industries. Each area has different needs, whether you're talking about Mid-Ulster in manufacturing, sort of Belfast is heavily in sort of services. So we recognise that each of the areas have very different needs. There's very different demography in each of those areas as well. So I think that has been one of the big benefits of the labour market partnerships, is helping us to better understand the needs of local areas. So there is a lot of evidence that we have captured, and I'm sure we can share that with the committee. But also employers are involved in that process as well. So they're on the ground, they know what they need, and there's a lot of engagement with employers to better understand what the needs are in those particular areas. It's also helped us to, I suppose, rationalise, and Kate talked earlier on about the London Underground sort of analogy. It has helped us to rationalise some of the provision as well, because there had been duplication in some areas, so it has helped us to become more efficient in terms of our delivery, in terms of the pathways, but also having a much greater focus on what the needs are in those particular areas. So just to give you a reassurance that there is a focus on those region areas, and labour market partnerships has been a really important driver in helping us to gain that deeper understanding. Developing and building upon that, we now have the local economic partnerships, and again I think we're well placed in terms of delivering those local economic partnerships, given the evidence base that we now have.
Okay. Thanks for that.
Thank you, Patrick. Sinead?
Thank you, and thank you for coming to the committee. I'm going to go back a little bit. You spoke on childcare to my colleague in the committee, Kate, and I firmly agree with everything that she said about the importance of the sector for the economy and for just families and communities. In your action plan, of your update in the skills action plan, in number 3, you have said it's here in green, so it's complete, but 2 collaborative assured skills academy in childcare delivered in Belfast Met to date, 26 participants upskilled and 20 hired by supporting childcare employers, etc. Is this not really under ambitious for this sector, considering the crisis that it is currently in? You talk about the pathways and that as well. And it's highly centred in your in this plan, Belfast. So what are you really doing to actually support this sector that is really crippled and on its knees? Because if that's a complete action, I'm really concerned that the ambition doesn't actually match the need.
So apologies if I give you the impression that was complete, Sinead. That's not the intention at all.
Well, it's green in your
it's great.
action
Well,
plan
it's
that you
green
get
as
to
in
the
it's on target, I suppose, whether complete or on target. And what I was just setting out to Kate is this is a beginning of a relationship, and we do have a very close working relationship with that sectoral partnership. And as I described, it isn't just a one and done. This is about an iterative process. It's about building those relationships. And I have attended the various sectoral partnership meetings, and I'm confident that actually that relationship has a solid foundation, and we will continue to support the childcare sector in terms of what their needs are. And they have been very innovative in terms of having a deep understanding of what those needs are. And as I explained to Kate, they are currently developing a management and leadership program to support that career journey. So I agree with you, this isn't a one and done. This is about a continuing developing that real relationship. What we wanted to do was to provide the platform for that sector, for those businesses to inform, to influence what we deliver in our FE colleges. And I think that has been a positive experience, and certainly if you speak to the individuals on the sectoral partnership, I would hope that they would give you a similar response, that they would agree with that. So we want to see businesses come to the fore. We want to see them to participate and to engage in developing the childcare pathways. That is really important, and we want to see more of that. And I've been encouraged in terms of the feedback that we have got from them in that they are engaged and they are positive in terms of so this is really initial steps, Sinead, in terms of those Assured Skills Academies, and certainly they were very supportive in terms of the outcomes that we achieved through that. So it is the beginning of a journey, not being complete. So apologies if there's a misunderstanding.
So you've indicated that there's another Assured Academy starting up in February 26. Where is that? So the two were in Belfast. Where's the third one been set up?
My understanding that it's also through Belfast Met. But the
childcare is required throughout Northern Ireland.
No, I agree.
These Assured Skills Academies need to actually get out of Belfast as well, because the sector is on its knees everywhere. There are particular needs in rural areas as well. So we need to service the entire region. And so what are you doing? Is this a plan to have academies elsewhere?
I was just going to add that I think that some of the I guess the smaller amount of reporting in that plan is a feature of how we're structured as well, and that there's been a lot of wider work around ensuring employers are informing the vocational education pathways, so skills for life and work, traineeship. Then there's been a growing range of apprenticeship pathways as well at levels 2 and 3, but also in the higher level apprenticeship around childcare leadership. Those are growing and well connected. And as Graham said, I think that's the opportunity that comes with tightening the focus on skills governance. And that next time this picture is presented, it's a joined up picture which shows you the full pathway of non-employed, employed, upskilling provision, including academies, accepting your point about a broader distribution of those academies. And then in parallel with that, we've been improving the sectoral resources on the careers service. So there's a lot of sectoral resources out there, and there's one in the plan for childcare as well, and that will give a single starting point for an individual or employer to see what are my routes into this sector and who are the examples of those who've got a really high quality career here.
Maybe we may, if you want a more fulsome sort of briefing on this, we can certainly write back to the committee and set out, as Clem has just articulated, the broader piece around childcare, because I think Kate has raised it as well. So we're more than happy to give a more fulsome briefing rather than this is just a little bit of a snapshot.
It's critical infrastructure, and obviously, just your report is very much Belfast centric, and it's critical in my constituency and every other constituency around. So I'd be concerned about that. So the other part that I want to kind of talk about now is the skills strategy has set a target for participation in adult learners that would catch up with the UK average by 2030. The number is falling. Are you concerned? What are you doing about that?
So adult participation is a challenge. We have the lowest participation on these islands, so it is an issue, and we are working very closely with the Alliance for Adult Learning and to understand that better. And very happy they've just completed a recent report, Sinead, and we're very happy to share that report with you to look at what are the opportunities for us to try and encourage more people into participate in learning. I think what we have tried to do is to make as many opportunities as possible for people to re-engage with learning. So we've talked about the Skills Fund. The Skill Up has been really beneficial, where we've seen thousands of individuals come back to learning, and indeed cohorts of individuals that have been difficult for us to reach in the past. So we're opening up opportunities for as many people as possible. Our all-age apprenticeships as well has been a really important part of providing opportunities for people too. But I also think it's about trying to encourage employers to invest in their people as well. If you look at the statistics, where actually we have the lowest level of investment from employers in terms of people who are already in work. So it is a societal issue. We're doing as much as possible as we can in terms of the pathways and the opportunities to open up those to the individuals, and to encourage employers to support their own employees in terms of that learning journey. I don't know if any of you guys wanted to add to that. No.
Just on that, how can we ensure that the learner voice is really heard in order for us to support the adult learners?
In terms of, do you mean in terms of the design of our programs, or?
Yeah.
I suppose that's part of the engagement that our local colleges and universities have in terms of their participants and the feedback that they get. That is really useful as well. And I know there's a lot of employer engagement, and that is an important part of our overarching strategy, is to listen to the needs of our employers. And I talked earlier on about the various groups that we have established to ensure that we are doing the right things, whether it's a Green Skills group led by Gordon Parks, and that has been really beneficial to understand that, as well as the digital skills. And again, we're working with the hospitality and tourism sector to better understand the needs of employers, but also how we can deliver a more effective service. I think one of the things that I have recognised is the increase in online participation, because that really supports individuals in terms of their learning journey. And whenever you look at the statistics around the Skill Up programme, 50% of our learners are now from rural areas, and it's great to see that. And I think the online piece has really supported that to make it much more accessible for our learners. So I think we are doing the right things, and we will continue to engage. Sinead, I think it's that continual engagement with our business and with the learners to better understand that. Sorry, Louise, you want to come in?
Could I add to that point in terms of inspecting FE colleges, for example? A key part of that, when ETI, Education and Training Inspectorate, inspect any part of provision within FE colleges, a key element of that work is the learner experience and learner voice. And we also know that there's really well-established mechanisms through each of the FE colleges, through their student services and student support, to take that feedback on from students. But I do take the point in the overall sense of things. I do think we could further consider how we make sure that that's a really clear voice of the learner to be worked through.
Yeah, it's back to what the chair talked about, you know, economic and activity as well, because it could be another barrier that we need to explore in order to get that down. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Diana.
Thank you, and thank you to the panel for coming in this morning. I'm glad, Graham, you mentioned hospitality and tourism, because that's really what I want to focus in on. You know, can you speak to me more about what you're doing for tourism and hospitality, because a lot of those industries really hinge on the provision of skilled staff, and particularly chefs, and if they aren't there, that's a critical threat to their businesses.
Yeah, so as part of the hospitality and tourism strategy, there was an action included within that to develop a specific skills action plan. So Colin Johnson, probably known to from the Gal Gorham group, is chairing that group, and we have participants from right across the various different sectors within hospitality and tourism. So we're working in partnership with them to develop that skills action plan, and we hope to be in a position in the coming months to be able to publish that skills action plan. And again, as I've said on a number of occasions, it is very much led by industry, because you know they're at the coalface. They know the types of skills that they need. They know that the types of individuals that they are looking for, and they know what works. So again, that is very important for us in terms of curriculum design, the various pathways, and the focus that they want to bring. And it is that sectoral based approach, because you know individual companies cannot deal with this on their own. They're too small, and they find it very difficult to actually influence. So this is about using a sectoral based approach to influence the offering, bringing individuals and companies together. So drawing on our success from the other sectoral plans, we believe this approach is the right approach, and certainly the initial feedback that we're getting from the sector is that they're enthusiastic about the opportunity to do that. But I think I mean, it is important, but we are developing a portal, a careers and skills portal, to help people to navigate the system, because it is pretty difficult currently in terms of where you go to in order to find those solutions. So again, having a one-stop shop is a really important part of this process, and that's something that we're seeking to do in the time ahead.
And that sounds like a journey, and we're not there yet, and you know that is really encouraging to hear. But I have immediate concerns that the shortage of skilled, particularly chefs, the industry doesn't want to be robbing off each other now. An immediate concern is the provision of employment opportunities outside of the locality, say bringing in chefs from overseas, so the visa requirements and everything. And I just wonder what the department can do to ease that process, to encourage or to provide that skilled workforce coming in that short term to address those gaps.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to give the impression that there's nothing currently happening. There are good examples of get into hospitality that again deliver through our local colleges, and that is working to good effect. And again, we're looking at our shared skills academies as a potential opportunity to short circuit that process, where we're actually getting more people in more quickly. So those tend to be short courses of 10 to 12 weeks. So that is a good opportunity to actually help the supply of individuals into the sector.
But in terms of your premium supplier, they are looking for a certain level of qualification.
Yes.
That's not immediately apparent, and there's a gap in that. So is there support for bringing in employees from overseas?
There's nothing that I'm aware of, sorry.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Diana. And David.
Yeah, thank you for coming in. I'm going to quote you a couple of times, and then I want to look at. You said business has changed, economy has changed, our economy has changed. Honestly, as I sit here and listen, I don't know what department's changed. So what has changed in the department to match business and economy? Because this still feels like this is top-down, government-led, rather than business-led.
Definitely not. Unfortunately, there's not businesses here to tell you, but if Gordon Parks was here, for example, he would tell you that it feels very different in terms of our approach. Business is very much in the chair, and we recognised that actually this needs to be designed, it needs to be developed, it needs to be business led. Even going back to the strategy, David, I mean, that was kind of our key focus, is that we wanted business, academia and government working in partnership, but we were very clear that it needed to be business led. So it is very different, it feels very different, and we are seeing changes in how we are actually delivering it against those needs. And even when we talked about the childcare sector, again, if you had the chair from the childcare sector of partnership here, they would tell you it is very different. And we are very agile and responsive, and there's lots of examples where we can demonstrate that we have been responsive to the needs of industry. Even thinking about the Skill Up programme, so the Skill Up programme was designed very much with business actually designing the curriculum, what was included, what was involved in all of that. I recall a heated exchange amongst the software companies around which software they should be using, whether it's Java or what alternative should be used. So I do want to give you a reassurance that things are very different and business are very much engaged in how we deliver a skills system for the future. And in addition to that, we have our Skills Council. Our Skills Council have been very influential in terms of challenging us, in terms of what we're doing, how we're doing that, and that has been a real positive experience. So there are lots of things, David, are happening within the department that have been
honestly, I know the Skills Council well, and I know a lot of the business organisations, and that is not what I hear from them. So we've talked about a talent agency before, SkillNet Ireland. Is there any move towards that model?
Certainly, as we've discussed here, I mean, it is a very difficult system.
Is it yes or no? Are we moving towards that
so
model?
We are looking at the options around that. As I said to the chair, it's a very difficult financial climate that we're currently in.
There's no money involved in this. Are we moving
even colleagues in the south, they're very interested in the sectoral approaches and the progress that we've made whenever we had our recent shared senior leadership meeting. I just on your comment, I mean, I think about my time in some of Graham's role. Initially, what was the content curriculum? It was developed in England. We procured it. Bit by bit, we've established a system across 18 different sectors that allows employers to inform that they fed into all the traineeships, all the skills for life and work, so they feed into apprenticeships, and there's a joined up pathway. The next stage of that then is to us to think about how does that connect with the upskilling opportunities, the shorter programs, and to try and give better support and emphasis to that employer voice. So I definitely agree with your point that there is more development required on the employer voice side, employer leadership. But I think there has been a lot of progress made over the last number of years.
Are you seriously telling me that people in the south, or the government in the south, are looking at us as the example that they want to copy?
Well, I'll say we met with them a number of months ago, and we talked about our sectoral approach where we have the 18 different partnerships, and they're very interested in learning from best practice. Their apprenticeship system, I suppose, is too different. It has a a kind of very centrally supported traditional model, and then an emerging model in new areas of the economy. They don't have that same infrastructure that we have, and I suppose we have to learn from each other. So I don't think it's as simple as a SkillNet model or a sectoral model. It's about, well, how do we learn from these different systems and work out how better we support that employer voice here? There's not any system where I've seen an effective drag and drop. I mean, if you in England, they've got an institute for apprenticeships and vocational education. In Scotland, they've got skills development. It's lots of different approaches across.
So it was said earlier, you want to encourage employers to invest in their employees for them to support their own employees. I completely agree. I don't think any business will. Every business that is very successful knows their employees are the business. They're what creates the money, right? But what you're talking about is a very top-down approach where we're doing this and they should do this, and we're going to put. These are the people that actually create the jobs at the bottom, on the ground. So where's the working and alignment with the department, with the business, to give business the actual voice here? I don't see it.
So, I mean, we've talked about the sectoral partnerships. You know, I think we have 16.
So it's 18. You've got. I suppose you've got the skills governance would be the word for it. You've got the strategic piece, which is the skills council. You've got the sectoral piece, which is those 18 different groups. You've got the FE sector hubs. You've got the different labour market groups. So I think the challenge is how do we better support the infrastructure that we have so those employers feel that they properly have had their voice heard. There is a balance between...
It's not having their voice heard, it's having their needs met. That's the point I'm getting at.
But that's how that's communicated.
It's about whenever I go into a factory and they're looking for simple courses that can be done and put in practice to make their business grow. That's not happening. That's the bit. That's the frustration.
You don't agree that the growth in apprenticeships is reflective of the fact that the curriculum and content's aligning with their needs? No.
I'm telling you now, I can take you, and I'll happily take you, and I'll happily put you in front of companies that are struggling to get staff that are skilled because they can't get people on the courses. So yes, I agree, there's stuff happening, but it's not in alignment with the economy on the ground. You've said business is changing and economy's changing. I don't see the change to match that.
So the example I would give, so there's a number of things. So the Skill Up program is an example where we've designed those programs specifically to meet the needs of industry. We've used industry to design those courses. The Assured Skills Academies, we work very closely with businesses to help them to get the people that they need. And we've given examples around the childcare sector. We're working with welding academies. We're working on the software sector, where we're designing programs that actually meet industry needs. So that is happening. You know, maybe it's not happening quickly enough, David, or maybe there's better things that we can do. We're definitely in the business of, if there's anything that we can do to improve the system, we will open. There's an open door there, and we're very keen to do that. So it's not as if we're saying, you know, this is the completed article. It's far from it. We know there's much more to do, and we're very keen to do that.
I think there's some system challenges here as well. Whenever I would speak to employers in England about how they've informed skills provision, I would speak to a hotel who maybe have 120 employees, and they would say, they would wait for the larger employees to set the core direction, and they come in and try and refine. That's a big employer here. So I guess probably the emerging challenge is how do we empower more companies that don't have that same corporate headspace to drive and inform this?
That's the question I'm asking you.
Yeah.
And you've just asked it back to me. That is exactly. I want to pick up on one final thing because just move this on. You talked about special educational needs with Alma White and Caleb's Cause, and they have done huge amount, and Alma's done particularly huge amount of work in this. You talked about there was a bid. Can you tell us what that bid would deliver for this?
Yeah, so we have a transformational bid that's gone in, and what that will do will help to improve some of the access into the programs. I mean, the FE colleges do provide special educational needs provision, and there's a lot of work that's gone on the way to see the ETI inspectors are currently in
What specifically is that bid for? What will it deliver?
Yeah, so there's three parts to the bid effectively, in that at the moment there's very patchy support that's available within schools. It depends on do you have EA support or not. So we're looking at a place-based approach. We're going to try and enhance the transitional support that's there so that people are more aware of their options from further out and try and reduce this sense of a cliff edge. We then are seeking to try and improve the pathways that people are progressing onto, and this connects with some of my older work in apprenticeships, like 3.6% is not good enough. So how do we support employers to design pathways that are more suitable, and how do we ensure the support's in place for those young people to actually access those opportunities? So that's the pathway part of it. And then the third part of the bid is that we have to do a live evaluation as we go, so that it's not just a piece of money that delivers some improved provision for a short amount of time. How does that actually inform lessons for the longer term? So there's three broad parts. We've indications that the bid was successful. We just await final confirmation of budget.
Okay, listen, thank you.
What was the total bid for?
About 7.5 million.
By you or by health or education?
Led by DFE with the partnership with those other departments. Indications are it'll be about 6.9 million.
Million? And this is Public Sector Transformation Board?
Yes.
And the department has received no other allocations from that to date?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, Kate, you wanted back in?
Great, David asked my question.
Yeah, okay, and then I just have two quick questions. So Skills Council, which David raised, the assessment of the Skills Council was done but was never published. What's the...
Still ongoing, Chair, so we're still in the process. So we've interviewed all of the members, so we've done all of the groundwork, so it's still to be considered. We've talked to the Minister about our findings.
Okay. And then local economic partnerships, what interaction do you have with those?
So it's an economic policy group, but we do liaise with the senior officials there. As I said previously, I mean, there's a lot of linkages and synergies with the labour market partnerships. So, I mean, that will be important to better understand. Each of the individual councils will have their own way of doing it, but we do have close engagement because skills is a close linkage into economic growth, etc. So it's important that there is those linkages.
My difficulty is, you know, I hear officials come time after time to tell me how difficult the budget scenario is. We have £45 million allocated to the local economic partnerships, which will be vital in delivering skills, and not a single penny has been spent in relation to the local economic partnerships to date. So, you know, if you're going to come to committee and say that, you know, money's tight, it's difficult, etc., it makes it hard for us to justify that, taking that on board whenever you have allocated money across 3 financial years and today you still haven't spent any of it. But listen, colleagues, thank you for your work on this. I personally remain unconvinced that we have got to grips with this issue. Spend on skills has increased, executive support in terms of earmarked funding for skills has increased, and I'm not quite sure we're there yet with tackling the underlying cause of economic activity in Northern Ireland, and that's not a slight on any officials or their dedication. I just think there's still a lot more work to do on this front, but thank you very much for your work today. Okay, colleagues, just to sum up on that, firstly, if we could just bring together the issue that both Sinead and Kate rightly raised in relation to childcare, if possible. So just wanted to crystallise that. So we're keen to get an update from the department in terms of work that they're doing outside of Belfast, but also then to support the industry. Is that right, Kate? Sorry.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know more about what this childcare and youth work sectoral partnership is doing, the membership, how many times it's met. It is such an important piece of work, and I actually would quite like to get a business perspective on how they think they're being supported in terms of recruitment and retention. I know maybe one of the chambers there has been work done, so we can have a look and see if there is anyone, but maybe that could be something the committee could.
So is that a briefing the members are looking for? Or?
Yeah, if we can just provide some more further information on that would be useful. Sinead, was there anything further on the childcare piece that you'd raised there?
Just Chair, again, you know, the Assured Skills Academy are meeting a need in one region. The need is everywhere, and I'm just wondering what the department themselves are doing and how they're collaborating with the FE colleges in providing Assured Skills academies elsewhere, and promoting the sector and working with the employers in all of the regions. So I mean the action plan and the report kind of didn't marry up to the ambition that we would have expected, and interventions we would have expected to a sector that is really, really struggling, and they're struggling to recruit everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. One other issue I just wanted to raise was in relation to staff structure. So obviously, and rightly so, there's been changes, promotions, etc. within the department, but I can't get my hands on a updated list of both grade 3s, but also then the changes that have responded to that. So Moira Doherty, for example, is obviously going to become permanent secretary. We've had changes in relation to director level, so it'd just be useful if the department could provide the committee with an update on that. And then the only other one I wanted to raise, so higher education financial needs assessment obviously hasn't been discussed with the minister yet, and she'll need to take some time to look at that and before she publishes that. So I struggle to see how the department are going to come in the first week of March to provide an update to the committee on that if the minister hasn't even had time to consider that. So maybe we could look at that at Forward Work Programme, Peter, and maybe see if we can push that back a couple of weeks, because I don't think there's any point bringing officials along if they haven't got an agreed political position by the minister. Padraig, did you want to raise one of the issues there just in relation to the All Ireland piece?
The separate around the insurance.
Oh, yeah.
To be honest, I would be shocked. And in fact, I know it has been brought before the department, because in PAC, I brought it to the department myself, and David's on PAC as well, so he can testify to that. So I know that this information has been brought. I know it's been, because I brought it.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm very confused by the fact that this conversation hasn't been dealt with by officials. I know that Kiva in her role as minister and Michelle in her role as first minister have both been looking at the insurance issue across different, car, home, industry, and so on. So, I mean, that isn't chiming with what is being said there in the presentations. That concerns me deeply, and I would like a written update as requested on exactly what's being done. Chair, on two fronts. On the placement and apprenticeships within the north, in people's own local area, but also on an All Ireland basis, because most members of this committee can attest to the fact that there are people who do placements all across the island, and that deeply concerns me. So I would like a written update on both those, please.
Yep. Members agreed? Okay, so that's all agreed, Peter?
Okay, do members also want an update on the longitudinal educational outcomes report, which they said was imminent?
Yeah.
Do you also want an update on the labour market partnership, DFE engagement update? Because I think they mentioned that too.
Yeah, and then if we can get an answer when they're likely to have their assessment of the future of the Skills Council, because that's now been sitting there for 18 months and we don't know what's the future ahead.
I remember the PAC just did a share, because we
did
that thing just to tell
all agreed.
Agreed. Colleagues, if we could take a short recess before our next item. Members are agreed. Oh, sorry, Sinead, apologies.
No, just quickly, I just want maybe some clarity. So the financial needs assessment of higher education, it's coming forward in March, and etc. But is it ruled out that the review of higher education is just not going to happen in this mandate? And if so, I mean, that is a real concern for higher education institutions and the squeezed students as well.
So that would be my interpretation, but I say that in a personal capacity rather than as a chair of this committee. The minister hasn't officially said that yet, but we can tease that.
Graham didn't seem, that the only thing that he was concerned was about the financial needs report. He wasn't concerned about the other. So, is that the decision by the department? Can we drill down on that?
Yeah, okay, that's right, ask. Okay, if that's agreed, then colleagues will take a short recess if members are content. Thank you.
Committee Room 30. Sound. 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 Committee Room 30, 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 Sound.
Okay, colleagues, thank you. We're now going to move on to item 9, which is sectoral action plans update. The department published a set of technology sector action plans in June 24, which were designed to support growth in certain sectors. The committee will now hear evidence from departmental officials providing an update on the sectoral action plan. If I refer members to the RAG status paper at page 256, the sectoral action plans at page 311 to 420, and the recent DFE paper on clustering at page 433. I'll just wait for our colleagues to join us. Good morning still. How are you all?
Morning. Hello, Linda.
Okay, on behalf of the committee, can I welcome Carmel McConville, who's the Deputy Director of Innovation and Priority Sectors at the department, Linda Meldrum, who's the Head of the Agri-Tech Sector, Damien Ryan, who's the Head of Net Zero Business Opportunities and Advanced Manufacturing, and Holly McDonough, who is Head of Life Sciences at the department. You're all very welcome. Thank you very much for coming along to the committee, and I'm happy to hand over to you all at this stage.
Chair, I've prepared an opening statement.
Of course, please, and thank you.
So good morning, Chair and members of the committee, and thank you for the opportunity to update you on progress in delivering the department's sectoral action plans. My name is Carmel McConville and I am Deputy Director for Innovation and Priority Sectors. Within the Economic Policy Group, I am joined today by my colleagues who lead policy development across several of the priority sectors, Damien Ryan, Holly McDonough and Linda Meldrum. So Damien leads on advanced manufacturing materials and engineering and net zero. Holly leads on life and health sciences, and Linda leads on agri-tech. Just going to get a drink of water.
Yeah, of course, no rush.
Given the number of sectoral action plans and the wide range of delivery partners and industry bodies involved, it's not possible to bring representatives from every sector today. However, we have provided the committee with a written briefing which provides further detail on the key deliverables across each sector, supported by a RAG rated status update. and we're happy to communicate further with the committee if there are any issues that come up which are outside our remit or expertise. As the committee will be aware, on the 26th of June 2024, the Department published sectoral action plans for 7 of Northern Ireland's most innovative, productive and internationally orientated sectors of the economy. These are agri-tech, advanced manufacturing materials and engineering, fintech and financial services, life and health sciences, low carbon and net zero, screen industries and software and cyber. These industries or these sectors were identified through an evidence-led process utilising economic and labour market data, stakeholder engagement and the Matrix panel, the industry-led panel which advises the Department on the commercial exploitation of R&D and science and technology. Sectoral action plans seek to make the most of the opportunity to focus on key technologies and use science and innovation to drive change for the wider ecosystem. They set out a range of activities that deliver against the Minister's key priorities of good jobs, increasing productivity, promoting regional balance and reducing carbon emissions. And also to support the growth of the sectors with actions classified under 4 broad themes of collaboration, people and skills, innovation and training and investment. The exception to this is the Screen Plan, where those themes were the themes that were themes were designed to be more relevant to the sector, so they included things like culture and economic issues. Members will also be aware that the sector plans do not have dedicated funding attached. Delivery is therefore being processed through existing departmental budgets, some of which will come under increasing pressure in 2026, 27 and beyond, alongside the leveraging of wider UK government and Irish government funding opportunities where available. Since the launch of the plans, there's been some important changes at local, national and global level, including the appointment of Professor Helen McCarthy as the region's first Chief Scientific and Technology Advisor in June 2024, which signalled a step change in our commitment to science, technology and innovation. Professor McCarthy's expertise has strengthened our ability to harness research and commercialisation for economic benefit, ensuring that Northern Ireland remains at the forefront of emerging technologies. Nationally, the publication of the UK Modern Industrial Strategy in June 2025 has provided a 10-year framework to boost investment, productivity and resilience across the UK. The strong alignment between the UK's 8 industrial strategy sectors and our own priority sectors has opened new avenues for collaboration, policy coordination and regional development. Internationally, the rapid rise of AI has become a defining feature of the global economic context. AI is now recognised as not just a technological revolution, but as a transformative enabler of productivity, new industries and inclusive growth. AI will have an impact right across all of our sectors, and each sector is considering the potential impact this will have for them, both positive and negative. I'm pleased to report that the Department and its delivery partners are implementing the sector plans with good progress overall. However, we're only halfway through the delivery stage and there is more work to be done. The Department is looking at how we deliver over the remaining 16 months and also how we take this work forward past that point in time. Chair, that concludes my opening remarks. My colleagues and I are happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Carmel, and I appreciate you and your colleagues coming along today. And as a committee, we understand the clear constraints that you're under, both in terms of no defined budget to implement a lot of these, and secondly, seems to be quite a high turnover in both staffing and unable to fill some staff vacancies in those positions. So I'm just wondering if you could talk to the vacancies that currently exist within those sectors.
Well, across all of our sectoral teams, we're all constrained, I suppose, by the HR situation. However, we have, so currently, do you want me to take you through the teams?
Yeah.
I can't speak to the NI Screen element. That sector plan has been taken forward by NI Screen, so I'll just stay within the 6 sectors that I'm responsible for. So I suppose right across our teams we have vacancies. We are probably, apologies, I'm trying to think of.
Oh, don't be worried.
Probably have 3 DP vacancies. So each team is led by a grade 7. Underneath that, typically there's a DP and then an SO for support. We have 2 vacancies within Damien's team, so advanced manufacturing and net zero at DP level. We're currently looking to fill those posts quite shortly. So we're hoping that those 2 posts will be filled. Within Holly's team, we have a DP vacancy that we are looking at options in terms of how we can fill that. Linda's team is currently resourced.
Yeah, we have our complement.
And then in terms of software, cyber and fintech, we have a team, so we're a grade 7 led team with a DP and an SO support there. So whilst we would always like more, there's more we can do. We have some vacancies, but potentially good news that we will be filling those vacancies within the next couple of months if the candidates accept those posts. So there's still some process to go through, but hopefully good news on the horizon in terms of the current vacancies that we have.
And did you make a submission and the draft budget exercise for dedicated funding for the sectoral action plans?
You mean in terms of staffing resources or in terms of the deliverable? We haven't made a funding bit in that. I think we've recognised right from the outset in terms of when we established, we developed the sectoral action plans, that funding was challenging, but we already fund or have significant resources devoted to our delivery partners, so Invest Now and Intertrade Ireland, and equally across our skills groups. So our focus was on utilising existing budgets rather than bidding for resources that we potentially knew we weren't going to be successful. So that was I suppose the strategy, and that remains the same.
Okay, perfect. And then in terms of, if we set aside the screen piece, in terms of the 6, what one do you think has been, or which ones do you think have been most progressed, have had the most impact, and which ones do you think need a bit more focus?
Maybe folks can pitch in here, but I think there's been steady progress across all of the sectoral action plans.
Okay.
I don't know if there's one that I could immediately say that I have major concerns about.
Are there any that you would say this is best practice, this is the best example, industry are bought in, we have a good strong leader in terms of industry involvement and is making a real and tangible difference?
I think industry is very engaged across all of the sectors in terms of the advanced manufacturing.
We certainly get on very well with our colleagues in Invest Now, the advanced manufacturing people, and also, the Makers Alliance. So the Makers Alliance delivery plan and our sector plan was actually aligned to make sure that it was coordinated perfectly, and they're always very good every time we have a query or we need to talk to industry. So we have a very good relationship. The only 2 amber RAG status ones we have, they're borderline. They could possibly have been green. It's basically, EU discussions and UK government discussions. Like, there is some going on, but they could be better and more coordinated.
If you want, do you want us to elaborate a little bit more in terms of the life and health sciences? Is there something I want to pick up there in terms of that engagement? There's quite positive engagement with industry.
With the life and health science sectoral action plan, we have a really strong Invest Now life and health science team who have helped in the delivery of these. The Future Medicines Institute is our first action and has been technically completed. There's a lot of work going on in the Future Medicines Institute, but it's a really successful collaborative piece of work, and it's very exciting what's happening there. So that was Invest Now, DFE, UKRI and all involved, so it was a really great collaboration piece. And then, as I said, Invest Now have been really helpful in regards to the delivery of the plan. We talk regularly, and the same with, we've got Harani as well, which is the cluster organisation for life and health sciences. They've been a really great support in helping deliver in that and bringing both Department for Economy, Department of Health, Industry, Academia, everyone together. So there is a willingness to collaborate there in the life and health science sector, and there's lots of exciting projects. So I think it is quite well on. There was a couple of ambers on our plan as well. Again, they were borderline. They're just things that we want to flag that we want to do more work on in the coming months. But yeah, I think for life and health sciences, it's a really exciting time, and we're doing as much as we can as a department alongside our delivery partners to make sure they've got the support they need.
Okay.
In terms of the software and cyber plan, we have regular engagement with the industry, with the CEO of Software NI. We've weekly meetings, so there's quite a good engagement there. We are looking at how we can do that in a better way, and maybe establish a wider industry group and bring HE and FE partners into that as well. But really good engagement from the sector, and they're very keen to support us as well in terms of how we develop and develop initiatives and work through the plan.
That's probably where I'm getting the least positive feedback is in relation to the software and cyber action plan, that the industry seems to be operating outside of the sectoral action plan because they seem it to be, it's such a fast moving industry that they see the department as too slow and not agile to move and support with them. And just I understand there's vacancies in across that sector, but you know there's great work going on in that, and it seems to be operating outside of the formal structure of the sectoral action plan.
So in terms of the team that are involved in that sector action plan, they're quite new to the team. We've got a new established grade 7 who's just recently taken over the plan. So it's that's why I refer to that engagement, that it could be better, and we're looking at how we do that in a better way. So whilst we have really positive engagement with the sector, we recognise that there's more to do there, and we're looking at how we take that forward.
Perfect. And then just the one red rating on all of the RAG ratings, isn't that right? If I read it correctly.
Yes. So there's one red within the software and cyber action plan, and we've recognised within the start of the plan that this was a really challenging target.
Mm-hmm.
So it refers to developing coding and computational skills within schools, and this is something that's been picked up not just by our sector action plan but by other plans. I think it comes through in the 14 to 19 plan, and we recognise that this is a really challenging target and not something potentially that we will achieve within the 3 years. It's a long-term plan, but we included it because we see the value in it, and we want to bring focus to that. So that action sits with DE, and we have the reason why it's red is because the team that are delivering that have been diverted to another piece of work. So
Have they been diverted to?
I'm not sure, but we're looking at how we can re-engage and how we can see if that work's going to.
The rating says that you're not progressing with the action.
So we're looking at how we can do that potentially via other means. It's not going to happen in the way that we envisage it potentially, but we are looking at how we can deliver that via other means. So whether it's another team in DE that picks it up, but it is red. But we recognised from the outset that it was a very challenging target, and that one that potentially will span wider than the 3 years.
No problem. And then finally, just for me, in terms of aerospace defence, that falls under. Okay.
Yeah.
Just talk to me about your engagement then with ADS.
We've had, when we were doing the plan, we did have one meeting with ADS, but most of it was done through Makers Alliance. We are very aware at the moment that the Defence Growth Deal is circling. We have been engaged with DBT and MOD, I think initially August, September time. It's gone a bit quiet. Then there was the Stranmillis update meeting a few weeks ago. So we're to meet with Invest and I think tomorrow to discuss maybe where we're going to sort of look at some of the areas we could use, and then there's going to be ongoing sort of continuation engagement with DBT and MOD going forward.
So ADS represents some of the biggest companies in Northern Ireland. We produce 30% of airplane seats used in the entirety of the world. We now have a situation where Northern Ireland is home to operations linked to the 3 largest aerospace production in the world, and you're saying that you've only met with them once?
Unfortunately, that was it during the plan's formation at the start, yeah.
And why was that?
We just had a wide engagement with as many stakeholders as possible, and say that's we thought we'd covered most of the bases. I think during the public consultation, I think we scored one of the highest, sort of that we were along the right lines. So we thought we'd done the job properly, and we certainly know when it comes to defence, there's going to have to be a lot more engagement with DBT, with ADS, etc., and with SNI. So
there is a feeling in the defence and aerospace sector that the department's not interested in them, that the minister is not interested in them, and if you're testifying to the fact that you've only met with them once, given the fact that they support up to 10,000 jobs across Northern Ireland, it does raise alarm from my perspective. The local defence growth deal has the opportunity to provide probably £8 to £10 million here in Northern Ireland. I have on a number of occasions asked the minister who will be the delivery agent for this funding, what support will be made available, and there's been nothing come forward. So could you just talk to, do you believe that the Department for the Economy will be the delivery agent for that?
That has to be still sorted out yet. So there has been a large gap of time where it seemed to be starting during the summer and in September, then nothing happened until about 2 weeks ago. So we know the ball's rolling now. We know we need to get something sorted around about the end of March, April time as to regards to what specifically we want to focus on. And we're talking sort of potentially cyber, aerospace, dual purpose sort of things. But we need probably DBT, MOD, Invest in I, ADS, everybody sort of sitting around determining what's the best way to take this forward.
When do you think that roundtable will happen?
We need to talk to DBT again because, in my opinion anyway, I think that they should possibly be taking the lead along with MOD. We're meeting with Invest in I tomorrow. We're meeting with the Chief Scientific Officer next week as well. And we certainly will be engaging more and more with DBT to try and push this forward. Yep.
Thank you, Chair. I joined the committee in September 2024, and this is an area that I've put a lot of questions in, and I'm going to be quite critical, and it's not at you personally, but I'm very suspicious about this work, to be perfectly honest, because they were released in June 2024. There was very little announcement around these plans. I've persistently asked for an in-person briefing, and we finally have one today. So while we welcome your presentation and you being here today, for me, I feel like this is more of a PR exercise to show that this is what we're working on, and this is why it concerns me. These are our highest potential sectors, and there's been very little information. The progress hasn't been updated. There was very little publicity around it, and I'm not very clear what the timeline of work actually is, what the headline achievements have been since the release. I'm not sure how many people actually work on each plan, so there are vacancies, but how many people work on each plan, what kind of staff turnover has there been, and why this concerns me is I understand that we're restricted in so many ways, and budget is difficulty and staffing is a difficulty, and we've got a reduced mandate, but we're here to scrutinise, and if we're going to grow the economy, then this is the way we're going to do it. And if it feels like this is just performative tokenism work, then that erodes trust in everything that the department is doing. So what I really need to hear is reassurance that there is meaningful work being done. It is not just tokenism, and to hear exactly what the kind of key headlines and key achievements have been since these plans were implemented.
Okay, well, I sort of address your first point. First, in terms of how the plans were developed. I suppose the work on these started probably a year in advance of the sectoral plans being launched. Through matrix and stakeholder engagement and data and analysis, the 7 sectors were identified, and then at that point, we thought about, well, what within those sectors do we target and how do we look at this? So each of the sectors has taken a broadly similar approach in terms of commissioning research and stakeholder engagement. I know for the software and cyber plan, we commissioned a piece of research. Steer were successful in that bid, and they undertook a number of strategies to identify the key technologies within software and cyber where we're good, but also where we need to be better, where we need to focus our efforts. So they identified a number of technologies. They engaged with, there was I think up to about 50 stakeholders across the sector, and there was a workshop in the department. So lots of work has gone into developing the plan, and I think it's a very similar story across each of the sectors. And I know in Agritech there was a piece of research commissioned. Life and Health Science there's research, so they're all informed by research and evidence, and that really helped us shape then the actions that came out of that. So the plans were launched in June 2024 at I can't remember the event, but Minister did launch them at I think it was a tech conference, but apologies, I just can't remember the name of it. But I don't know if Spelltech or but regardless, the Minister had launched them at that event, and then from that point in time we've been looking at how we deliver them. And you know, I can recognise the challenges. We haven't assigned budget to this, but we already have substantial budget assigned to our skills provision and to Invest Now and our delivery partners. So it's utilising those, and I think it has been helpful to have the sectoral action plans, because you'll see in the written briefing that was provided right across the department, teams are looking at how we prioritise the sectors, how we support the growth of the sectors. So it's not tokenism, it's very much, you know, everyone across the department is aware of our sectors, and whenever we're thinking about programmes and projects, the focus is, you know, how do we support our priority sectors through that work. So there's, you know, across our sectoral teams there's lots of activity that's, you know, that's happening to support the sectors, but wider than that, you know, there is like a shift across the department in terms of when teams are looking at projects, how do we align those to support our priority sectors. And there's a couple of examples there within the written briefing that hopefully gives a bit of a feel for that. In terms of your second question was in terms of resourcing. There has been some restructuring within the department. So, and you know, I recognise that's not ideal. So we've got a new team who've come in to look at the software cyber plan. They weren't the team who developed the plan. So, you know, I suppose there's recognising that there's challenges there for people who have to get up to speed, you know, in terms of how we take this forward. Within the Life and Health Sciences team, there's been a bit of turnover as well, but I suppose Holly is a consistent team member, so there is continuity there. Equally within software and cyber, I was involved in that plan, so I'm still here. And you know,
I mean, how many people are there on each of these teams?
So within so say if I go from the Agritech team, there's grade 7, DP and SO, so it's a 3-person team.
And has that been the case the whole time, 3 people
within
on each?
Agritech? Yes.
Yeah, we've had one person move on, but you know, one of the big ticket items, you know, on my side, on the Agritech, and by Agritech in our definition, we've chosen to include agri-food as well. It was the launch of Invest NI's AFII, Agri-Food Investment Initiative, and it's a 46 million scheme, capital scheme for transformative capital investment in food and drink processing companies in Northern Ireland. But it's first and foremost a productivity scheme, and and so far we have a target of 14 projects to be approved by the end of March, and leveraging 134 million investment. But to date we have 11 letters of, we talk it like it's my baby, but it's really Invest that are taking it through. But to date they have 11 letters of offer issued, representing 95 million in total investment, with 11.6 million in letters of offer for the companies from Invest NI. And some of the companies that have been successful, you met McColgan's, William McColgan, yesterday at the Lidl event. They've been a beneficiary.
Can I ask how? Because I appreciate that, and maybe that's the difficulty of the plans, but when you're working with sectors, if they have achievements, how do you measure how much of the role your plans have had in that? Because if there are these examples where Invest are delivering projects, or where there is cybersecurity, how do we know, how are you measuring and monitoring what impact that plan is having on those successes? Could they just be successes that the industries are doing anyway, and you know, you could say that, how do we know that the plan is feeding into this?
AFII, for example, it will be evaluated as it goes along, and in fact I looked at it a bit, sort of a mini look at it, because it has new productivity metrics in line with our sort of pressures on our economy to drive up productivity. But they'll be assessed on, you know, how they're contributing to, you know, the regional balance and good jobs and obviously productivity. So there are metrics for the projects to be all evaluated on, and for lessons learnt as well. Obviously, if we need to learn lessons as well.
Okay. Thank you, and I guess that's kind of something that I'm keen to understand. I talk about AI so much in this committee, but it's a really good example of how things are advancing so quickly, and I just wonder how the action plans are reviewed and evaluated for effectiveness and updated, given kind of the changing landscape in which we're working, and will there be more updates published as you go forward in terms of the progress on these plans?
Yes, we're hoping to publish an update. We're midway through the action plans, and we have, I think it's about 16 months now towards, you know, before the end. So we're coming to the end of the plan. So we are at a sort of natural point to review the plans and to publish an update. Right. But also, you know, we're very conscious about after the 3 years how we take those forward, because we have identified that these are priority sectors, and that work doesn't stop past that point. So it's, you know, looking at over the next 16 months how we focus and, you know, what we prioritise to ensure that, you know, the plans are successful, but then also that past that point in time, how we make sure that that work doesn't stop and we take that forward after that period.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Sinead?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your presentation to date. I want to concentrate on Advanced Manufacturing Plan and how it relates to the UK Government's Advanced Manufacturing Plan. Are there any plans to deepen that engagement, and if so, what's happening in that field? And then also around the advanced manufacturing, obviously the enhanced investment zones are coming forward. How are you working with sectors to deliver on the enhanced investment zones? It seems to be one of these areas that we get little or no evidence coming forward about what is actually happening. So maybe in your work, you are working with companies in and around that.
If I could just ask you, sorry, it's the enhanced investment zone you're talking about?
Yes.
Sorry. So we have a team that deals with that on their own now. They have taken a steer. I think originally they were talking about green technology, green economy, and they're now doing advanced manufacturing because it'll have a bigger impact positively on the economy. My understanding, and say the Makers Alliance has been heavily involved in this EIZ work, is that they've gone through the 5 gateway process. It's been approved by the executive, and they're waiting just for the UK government approval at the moment. So I haven't been directly involved, but I keep in touch with, you know, the movements that's happening.
So are you saying as the lead for the advanced manufacturing sectoral plans, you're not engaged with developing those programs?
I'm engaged with the team, but there's a team specifically set up to run it and push it forward. So I would have done the introductions at the start.
So what's your understanding of what's happening in those areas if you're engaged with the teams?
As I say, I know they've gone through the gateway process. They're waiting for approval. I know they are going to look at biotech and photonics. I know Makers Alliance was heavily involved, you know, from the very beginning when the work was being done. So I just keep up to date with what's happening, and if any way I can help, I certainly do. As to dealing with the industrial strategy of the UK government, we have reasonably regular meetings with them. I sit on 2 UK-wide groups. One's a hydrogen propulsion manufacturing group, and the other is the offshore investment strategy group. So I'm basically sitting there from advanced manufacturing point of view, trying to ensure that any potential funding that could come our way has been Northern Irelandised, for want of a better word, to make sure that we can maximise anything that could potentially come out of it.
Okay, thank you. And just in your plans again for the software and cyber action plan, under theme 2, people and skills, right? There was an intention that the Department of Education would take a strategic approach to improving digital skills within the schools, and now that has that action is not proceeding because it was kind of like to lead people into further education and higher education, so that the skills that they would be learning in schools was actually relevant to the sectors. Why is that action not happening? Because I think that's fundamental to delivering on those skills for that sector.
Yeah. As I mentioned earlier, we recognise within the plan that is a challenging and stretching target. I think and it's something that not only comes through in this plan, but also comes through on others, like for example 14 to 19. Whenever we wrote and developed the plan, we recognise that whilst it's challenging, we still need to focus on it. It's an area where we absolutely need to shine a light on it and to keep focus on. Engagement with the officials have said that the team that were working on that have been redeployed elsewhere. So we're going to keep engaging with DE to see if we can, if there's another team is going to be established to take that forward. We've indicated that it's red at this moment because we haven't got that clarity. But regardless, we will. If we're not successful, we will look to take this forward by other means. But we are hopeful that DE will re-engage with us on this action, and we can take it forward. But just for complete clarity, we've marked it as red because we're still in that space where we don't know if another team is going to pick up this piece of work, or if we need to think about other ways that we can take it forward.
That's really disappointing because we can't work in silos. When we're talking about skills, it involves the Department for Education as well as economy, because it's like a skills escalator, and we know the whole lot has to work in tandem. And if this is an agreed priority economic area, then we need everybody pushing it or pulling in the same direction. Just on cyber and software again. Under theme 4, trade and investment. So FDI, you've indicated that one of the key actions is to build a strong FDI proposition for the software sector. Your focus is going to be on AI, it's going to be in data science and engineering and cyber. It's initial scoping is underway. Is that really where we're at the minute? We're scoping it? The proposition?
No, is this in the RAG status?
Sorry, it's under the cyber and it's under theme 4, trade and investment, and the papers that were submitted by yourselves.
There is lots of really positive work that's ongoing, across the software and cyber.
I suppose what I could ask you, maybe to make it simpler, has the proposition, FDI proposition, has been developed?
Yes.
In relation to software and cyber?
Yes. So, any of my engagement with InvestNI on this issue, they're very clear that this was an agreed action and they have taken it forward. And then within the written briefing, they've provided some examples, in terms of the actions that they've taken in terms of, attracting new FDI, supporting existing investors, supporting Indigenous companies as well. So they've provided some, sort of tangible outputs from that as well. But yeah, in terms of, I'll review that, because from my understanding and the engagement that I've had, they have, InvestNI have looked at, this is one I thought would have been great. So I'll take that away and look at that. But yes.
I would expect that you would be working in very, very closely with InvestNI on that proposition. So are you able to tell me what that proposition is for external investors? What can you offer as a sector?
Unfortunately, I don't have that detail today, but we can come back to the committee on that.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the panel for coming in today. I just wanted to ask some questions on the agri-food tech sector. In the Action Plan Theme 1 collaboration, the sustainability body, what has been, can you just outline the progress there, and what is the reason for the delay in establishing that, and also what buy-in has there been from the agri sector to that industry body, to that body, to lead that body?
Yeah, it's so the sustainability body is actually an industry-led group. It's not led by government, and we're not actually members of this particular forum. And but they have. There was a willingness, to come together and have membership that included from the farming side of things and for processing as well. And to come together, and they were progressing. It was happening a bit slower than they probably would have ideally liked. So I know that they commissioned KPMG to take some of the work forward, to move things forward. But I'm not too sure. Since then, I'm not sure where it sits exactly at the moment.
And as it's been identified as an action, can the department, step in and assist? And how important is that sustainability piece for the agri-food processors?
I think really. I suppose when it was originally muted, I'm aware that there were sort of a couple of angles to it, industry driving forward sustainability, as a group collectively, but also there was this angle on it, whereby what's in it for Northern Ireland PLC food, and were there ways to maybe some of the innovations that are happening in DAERA, like for example, the ruminant genetics and the traceability through the food supply chain, really hard evidence, and using our stock or like our cattle, when we're breeding our cattle, choosing ones that are lower methane emitters, for want of a better term. Also things like, the sort of raft of work that's going on in DAERA about the soils analysis, the topography maps and things like that.
And is it on then industry to lead on that? I mean, it's to gather that together, is that an industry responsibility?
Not industry, but it's promoting NI Food PLC on its sustainability credentials. Is they were as it was originally envisaged when it was originally proposed. There was an angle there that industry could promote it.
It is cross-cutting, so there's the element of DAERA as well during that promotion.
The sustainability body, the last I heard, their membership was, food processing, but it wasn't this particular forum. Doesn't have, either DAERA or DFE membership in it.
And that's a bit surprising, since the DAERA minister is so focused on the environmental side of his brief. Yeah, just.
I think it's not taken away from other things. This was just stuff that industry were doing themselves, and I think they were really, the farm carbon footprints as well. They just wanted to promote our produce on its sustainability credentials.
Is there a target date for the completion of that work?
I'm not aware. I'm not aware from the industry, and I did ask DAERA, but they haven't heard anything either since KPMG were commissioned.
Watch for that. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. David?
Our economy's growing at double the rate of the UK, more than double the rate of the rest of the UK, which is really, really, really positive, and it's good. But how much of that's got to do with actual business, and or what has the department done to actually create that?
I'll pick up on that, I suppose. I suppose across, you know, we've across all of the work that the department does, you know, there's many ways in which we can say we've influenced growth in the economy, you know, through the work that we do, or that our delivery partners do in terms of InvestNI, Intertrade and others. And we've identified 7 priority sectors, which are our fastest growing, our most internationally orientated and most productive. I think it'd be very difficult to say, sort of quantify that the impact, you know, in terms of we have delivered X amount of growth. I don't know if there's metrics in terms of, you know, I don't know if the metrics that the department developed are as detailed as that. Is that what you're
trying to work out what the point is? I'm trying to work out the why. What's the point of the sectoral plans if the sectoral plans aren't delivering any change? The business is delivering the growth, is what I'm saying, because of opportunities outside of the department. So what are the department doing to actually deliver growth? You're talking about productivity, but productivity hasn't changed.
Our productivity levels have increased, and productivity is a sectoral issue. You know, it's not a standard. It's not you know, not all sectors are as productive as others, is what I'm trying to say. And then also across council areas, you know, different council areas are more productive than others. So it's a complex issue, but it's one that the department is focused on. And there's multiple ways that productivity can be impacted, from, you know, from supporting businesses to upgrade the processes, and you know, sort of productivity is all about doing more with the same or less resources. So it's supporting businesses to, you know, adapt new innovative processes, or, you know,
Okay, so let's just stop there. So if that's the case and that's the issue, whenever I was reading through, it's InvestNI are doing this, Intertrade are doing that, and that's all great. But what's the department doing to
Well, it's that policy steer. It's setting out what the priorities for the department, and where we want, you know, our delivery partners, what we want our delivery partners to deliver against. So it's setting out very clearly, you know, here are our priorities, and right across the department there is multiple priorities. So I'm not pretending that these are just the only ones, but there is multiple priorities right across the department. But it's you know, we've identified the most productive sectors where there is the most potential to increase productivity, look at new, you know, good jobs, and promote regional balance as well. So it's important signalling as well, you know, for sectors that, you know, they are a priority, I suppose, for the department as well. So there's multiple ways in which the sector plans contribute to it.
Okay, I'll go to one. Simply, anybody looking at Northern Ireland's economy could identify those in a matter of minutes, and write a plan to go life and sciences, fintech, advanced manufacturing, agri-tech. Like, we have a whole department going. We've identified these. They're already there. Everybody understands that. But if we look at life and sciences, and we look at that one, and we're seeing major growth there, which is really positive and really good. But what I can't see is what the department are doing to actually drive that growth.
Well, I tell you a bit about what I do. Okay, so I think for my role, and there is just me, and I have a part-time staff officer, but my role is kind of connecting all the dots. There's a lot going on in the life and health science sector. It's really strong, but there's so many things going on here and here. You know, InvestNI are driving a lot, Intertrade Ireland, we've got Harani who are, you know, bringing people together. And I think for my role is connecting those dots, but also, you know, the action plan gives us a lever to say, yes, that is something we want to focus on. Yes, to InvestNI, that is an area that we want you to, you know, move forward with. We also work very closely with our Department of Health, because life and health sciences is not just about the economy, it's about our health outcomes for our citizens. So, you know, it's important that we have that connection. So I talk to them on a weekly basis, and I've built many relationships through various people across the Department of Health, which the department may not have done before if we didn't have this sectoral action plan. They were involved in its development as well. You know, we had many conversations, they fed into it. So we also, it's helped us build those relationships. We're working with the MHRA a lot more, and the Department of Health and Social Care in the UK. So the MHRA is our regulatory body, with dual market access. You know, there's a lot of issues there, and we have regular contact with them. They've been over to visit. We've been able to showcase Northern Ireland, and that's an action within our plan, and that's something that we've been able to drive forward. We haven't been able to fix everything yet, but we've already helped improve guidance that's available for Northern Ireland businesses. Sorry. The MHRA have now committed to engaging more with NI businesses, and they will be coming over more regularly. They're holding one-to-one workshops as well. So they're all things that, like, I have personally driven with colleagues in Department of Health and Invest in I, and with our Harani. But there are things that I've been working on because that's kind of the policy lever part of it. Invest in I will continue to drive economic growth, but you know, they do that with our steer and our support, and we're needed. There's things that they're coming and asking us for more help with and support with, and we're able to deliver that because we have these action plans that we're following back
Listen,
on.
I appreciate the work
No.
you're doing here, and I really genuinely, because the numbers for health and life sciences are really
The only
positive.
concerning part is you're the only full-time staff member, isn't it?
That's what I was going. Exactly.
We work with what we've got, and I have a lot of amazing colleagues in the Department of Health. A lot of amazing colleagues. You know, we all kind of work together as well. But you know, we have Invest in I. As I said, they have a really strong life and health science team, and I'm sure the other sector leads can say the same. And we do it all together, and I think that's the biggest part. And I think that's one of the most important things of these sectoral action plans is that it's brought so many different areas together to, you know, so that we can try and achieve these, and driven that collaboration and partnership that's needed, not just across our department but across other departments, DERA, Health, and then also, you know, our delivery bodies, industry, academia. You know, everyone's working together to try and deliver on these. Everyone's involved in the creation of them. So I think from that point, they are important. They're important to us, but they're important to everyone that they're delivering for because they were built together, and we're trying to deliver them together. So, sorry.
Thank you very much. No, thank you very much. I'm just going to move on. Just finally, then a couple of final questions from me. So just to pick up on Sinead's point, Damien, about the enhanced economic investment zone. So it's going to be advanced manufacturing, 150 million. So could you let us know what's the current projects that are going to be funded through that?
There's two headings. I think it's photonics and biotech.
Okay.
And I think they have a range of potential projects that may go, but until the improvement is given, there's no information coming out until everything is seed and delivered.
You said the executive had approved the project?
The executive has approved that side of it, but then the UK government has to approve.
What
That's where they
projects,
go.
what projects have the executive approved?
Well, they've gone through the process of saying this is why we want to go down the advanced manufacturing route. This is the two areas we want to concentrate on, photonics and biotech. And there's a potential range of, you know, projects that may come out of this. And then through the
gateway. Talk to some of those?
I don't have the details on that, to say, because whilst I've been involved, sort of.
Sorry, and I think it may be the Mid-South West deal, the photonics. Yeah, I think that's where it's coming from.
I think you should know these things, that within the department should have let the person know who's heading up advanced manufacturing that we're about to have £150 million of investment, probably the single biggest piece of investment from UKG in this, and your colleagues haven't even told you what the projects are.
We have a team set up.
I know you have a team set up, but you're
that.
responsible for heading up the growth within advanced manufacturing.
Very true, I'll take that responsibility, but as Holly said, there's the connections between InvestNI, ITI, Makers Alliance, UK government, EU government. We try our best with what we've got.
Oh, I know.
And certainly if you need an update, more specifics, I can go to the Advanced Investment Zone team and get it for you. That's just my knowledge of where we stand at the moment.
And you said you sat on an offshore development group?
Offshore Investment Growth Plan Group, yes, strategic board.
What is that?
It's a industry-led body, but the UK government are involved in that as well. So it's looking to see, as the UK as a whole, excuse me, strategically where they can potentially bring money, funding to try and get
offshore energy, is it?
Offshore energy, supply chain, getting companies involved in the supply chain. So my role there is to try and make sure whatever's happening, as I say, Northern Ireland's not forgotten about, and that we can jump on board as soon as anything comes out, and we're prepared for it. I've had a couple of conversations with Nemo as well, just as a heads up to them.
And you realise now that the department have conceded that the ORE policy will not be in place in this mandate?
I had heard that as well, yes, unfortunately.
Okay, colleagues, thank you so much for your time. Listen, I understand you're overworked and probably underpaid, so thank you very much for your work.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Okay, Peter.
So members, the committee can tend to write to the department just in terms of, actually it's the last page of the department's briefing, page 310. This is the FDI proposition on cyber and etc. Just to write to them to give us an update on what that FDI proposition is looking like, and additionally to seek an update just on the timeline for the development of the sustainability biofood, agri-food group that Ms Armstrong asked about. Should we content to do those?
Yep. Okay, colleagues, this remark's not geared at any individual or person, but we've had 8 witnesses that have come forward to the committee today, some of whom are directors within the department and senior civil servants, and I can only describe our evidence session as painful over the past 2.5 hours, with a lack of detail and an inability to answer basic questions. And indeed we had directors of departments asking committee members questions about departmental policy, and I just say politely to the department, if they're going to send colleagues and officials to this committee, that they come with the detail and they come with information on this. People are paid a lot of money to be senior civil servants, and there's an expectation that they answer the committee's questions and provide evidence to that. As I say, this is not an attack on any individual or person, but it's just a message for the department that the committee needs to be treated better in this regards. Sinead?
Yeah, Chair, I totally endorse those remarks. That gives us all cause for concern about what is happening within the skills department from the Department for Economy. I wanted to ask about clustering, but I was afraid because I don't think that they would have had the answer because it's just so wide. It was a poor session. Thanks.
David?
Actually, one of the worst sessions we've had. We've been here for over 2 hours, and literally they're asking you the question back that you're asking them. It's pointless. It's absolutely pointless bringing a department in, actually begin to think there's nothing happening with a lot of this stuff, and that's really, really concerning, honestly. So I appreciate you raising this because it's.
Okay, colleagues, we're going to move on to item number 10, which is a SL1 parental bereavement miscarriage leave written briefing. The department intends to lay a statutory rule, the Parental Bereavement Leave and Pay Miscarriage Regulations Northern Ireland 2026. The rule is subject to draft affirmative procedures. At its meeting on the 28th of January 2026, the committee received a briefing from departmental officials and noted the proposed statutory rule. The committee then agreed to launch call for views. A number of responses were received. Of the 4 responses, 2 were nil responses. The department has provided responses on the issues raised. If I could refer members to unredacted copies of Citizen Space's response at page 458, a copy of the miscarriage leave SL1 and draft SR at page 464, the department's response to the 2022 consultation, the department's previous related correspondence, and the consultation summary information provided by the department. Do members have any questions or concerns in respect of the proposed rule? If members are content, I will put the question. It's content for the department to make the proposed rule. Is that agreed, members?
Great.
Okay, thank you. Peter?
Chair, just as the committee also content for me to publish, see page 455, just people bothered to respond to us in Citizen Space. They asked a couple of very interesting questions. Department's come back, so if you're happy enough, I will put that up on our website if the committee are agreed.
Agreed?
Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you, members. Thank you.
Okay, item 11 is SL1 Student Support Regulation, and this is a table briefing, members. The department intends to lay a statutory rule, SL1, the Education, Student Support, etc. Amendment Regulation Northern Ireland 2026. The rule appears to be subject to negative procedure. The proposed rule is in tabled items and makes quite a lot of changes, including increasing the level of disabled student allowance, increasing the maximum tuition fee loan, increasing the maintenance grant and loan, and other technical amendments. Is the committee content to note the proposed rule for now and place relevant documentation on the committee web page in support of call for views? Members content? Thank you. I'm going to move to correspondence, members, and start at item 2. Members are asked to consider ministerial correspondence in respect of the BBC Charter Review. Members content to note. Thank you. Again, for noting, it's item 3. Members, is a copy of the ministerial oral statement on North-South Ministerial Council. Content to note.
Yeah.
Thank you. Item 4 again is another ministerial statement for noting on the North-South Ministerial Council Tourism Sectoral Meeting. Members content to note. Okay, thank you. Item 5 is again for noting as a departmental response in respect of fibrous rollout provided information by town area. Members content. Thank you. Item 6 is for noting, members, and it's a departmental response in respect of dual market access stakeholder forum. Members content to note.
Yeah.
Thank you. Item 7 is again for noting, and it's departmental response in relation to Cantor Fitzgerald. Members content to note. Item 8, members are asked to note a copy of departmental response to the Committee for Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs in respect of the impact of Northern Ireland trade of recent US tariffs. Members content to note. Thank you. Item 9, members are asked to note a departmental response in respect of the housing supply strategy. Members content to note. Thank you. Item 10 for noting is a copy of a departmental response to the Committee for Justice. Members content to note. Thank you. Item 11, members are asked to consider correspondence from UCAS to the Minister advising that UCAS has no control on the timing of examination results and that the universities are not obliged to use the UCAS tariff point system, and some do not. Members are asked to note correspondence from the CAO at page 648, advising in the Republic of Ireland there is a common point system employed by the universities in IUA and the Technology University Association, the TUA. An equivalent project is underway. The State Examination Commission deals with timings of examinations and results in the Republic of Ireland. Is the committee content to schedule a briefing with IUA and TUA in respect of their equivalences project and the State Examination Commission in respect of coordination of results day? Podrick, if you're still there, this was just a wee issue that you had previously raised, Chief.
Yeah, Chair, sorry, I was just trying to unmute myself.
Don't worry at all.
No, I mean, look, just share the concern that has been raised so far. I mean, if nothing to sort of add on this specific point, really, but it's just, the concern that has been raised so far, I think, is legitimate. Been really disappointed with the responses today, and I just feel like they've raised more questions than they've answered. So, I mean, if nothing to add just on this specific point, but happy to move on.
I think we need to invite them in, though. Yep. I think that
Sorry, so the IUA and TUA
Yeah.
to talk about their equivalencies project, and I'll try and get the State Examination Commission to talk
Yeah.
about the timing of results day in the Republic of Ireland.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Okay. Item 12, members are asked to note correspondence from the Committee of Finance. Members content to note.
Yeah.
Item 13 is for noting as the report of the ASR. Members content to note. Thank you. Item 14 is for noting as a correspondence from the House of Lords Northern Ireland Scrutiny Committee. Members content to note. Item 15 for noting is again exchange between the Department for Business, Trade and the House of Lords Northern Ireland Scrutiny Committee. Members content to note. Item 16 for noting is a copy of the CIT Northern Ireland Annual Report and Accounts for the year. Members content to note. Item 17 to note correspondence from the Association of British Insurers. Members content to note. Item 18 is an invitation from the Queen's University Belfast about their Balmoral Show exhibition. Members content to note. Thank you. And does any member have any query in respect of correspondence? If not, we then move to item 13, forward work plan.
So, Chairperson, then next week, okay. Look, this has been on the books for a while. Tourism NI, Tourism Ireland, Fáilte Ireland. Fáilte are indicating they may not attend. So we've offered them, we're trying to be very nice to them and offered them to, maybe they could come by Zoom. So we're still in discussions with that, but that's what that was about. It was the extension of Fáilte Ireland's marketing to Northern Ireland. So I'll attempt to get them to come, and we'll see how I get on with that. Actually, Katie's going to attempt to get them to come. So additionally that day, see, this would have fitted in really neatly. You then have Hospitality Ulster Hotels Federation Food to Go, and that would have been quite an interesting day all round on that subject. So we'll do our best to make that happen. 4th of March, midterm energy strategy review, and currently it says financial needs analysis, but
I just say in the financial needs, the officials had asked to push it back.
Yeah. Okay.
And then they'd spoken with the minister, and because they got their meeting brought forward, they had agreed then to come on the 4th.
Okay. I just have concerns that we're not going to be in a position to have a full picture on this because the Minister's hasn't even met with our departmental officials to look at this. So my suggestion would be if we look at putting that to the 18 members. If
Seven grade members.
Yeah.
Okay.
In relation to Fáilte Ireland, if you could just make clear to them, I as chair of the committee expect them to be here next Wednesday. We've given them a couple of months' notice on this. There's important work being done in relation to the extension of the Hidden Heartlands brand from the Republic into Fermanagh and other associated areas. So they are a big organisation with many employees which are funded by Northern Ireland taxpayers, so there's no reason why they cannot be here next week. Anything else on the forward work plan?
Just okay, that being the case, then the Department of the Economy and Great British Energy, we're struggling with that a wee bit, so we'll just move that to after Easter.
Yep.
And then we can have we'll just move things around a little bit. Also, look, I'm really not expecting the department to come on the 4th of March to talk about their budget. I really don't. So maybe we'll speculatively put that in the 25th of March. Sorry, Ms. Nichol.
We mentioned earlier on about childcare and how beneficial it would be to hear from childcare businesses. I think if we could ask the NI Chamber to maybe come with the childcare business, that would be really useful. I'm conscious the childcare strategy is up for consultation. There is a lot being done by education. Economy has a massive role here, and I'm worried. I just have no confidence at the moment after today, and I would really like to hear a bit more about what the department's doing. So if we could get them quite soon, it would be really useful, I think.
The Northern Ireland Chamber and the childcare representative.
If they will have members, they represent childcare providers, so if they could bring someone with them.
Members content? Okay. David.
Good job, Bill. The weeks April, May, is that Easter, or are you hoping that is through, or where is this sit? Or
so so any bill that appears, what will happen is that we would put out a call for evidence, and then we'd have to wait a month or two for people to respond to us. So I informally understand the utility regulator decarbonisation bill has been through the executive, is my understanding. So I would expect that to be introduced soon.
Okay.
Very
I would
soon.
expect Good Jobs to be coming soon.
Well, if you recall, what
the official position still from the department is that the drafting exercise is still not being completed.
So that was the end of March. Then the Permanent Secretary said it would go to the executive, and that would be after Easter. So you'd be talking about the earliest May.
Okay.
And then you'd want to do a call for evidence. You'd want to give people time
okay.
to respond to see what they've got. So it was said at last week's meeting, the committee could do a series of micro inquiries. You couldn't really do that if you don't know what's in the bill, because you don't really know. So that's not how committee stages work. They give us the bill, we ask people, what do you think about what's in this bill? And then, the committee is informed and can report on it. Can't really do what was suggested, just to be clear. Sorry, Chair, but that's it.
I mean, that's deeply, deeply concerning that this is still being drafted. This is the biggest piece of legislation we're expecting, and I mean, that's just shocking to me. I think May is still quite optimistic. It sounds like it actually will be June as previously suspected. That's really worrying.
Hey colleagues, anything else? Are we happy to agree the forward work plan as amended? Yeah. Okay. Any other business, colleagues? If not, then the committee will now adjourn, and we'll be back here next Wednesday at 10 a.m. Thank you, colleagues, for your attendance. Thank you.
Committee Room 30, sound.